Hey YouTube, hey guys, Martin here. I'm going to just kind of talk to myself, really. Hopefully, if you watch this video, you'll get to kind of get to know me and check out some of my other videos. You'll see what I've been up to. You'll see a whole lot of videos of all my fish. I try to record and document everything, simply because it is a passion and it is something I want to show people, basically, how anybody can really just start and just keep going and learn as you go and eventually do something that you're really happy with. For example, I have about 13 fish tanks right now. If you watch my videos, you'll get to know them. I have a 120 gallon, I have a 90 gallon, I have a 55 gallon, I have a 30 gallon, 20 gallon, 6 10-gallon tanks, 2 5-gallon tanks. I think that's most of it. And I have a cricket breeding farm. You guys don't see that yet. But basically, it is how it started was I started with a 30-gallon tank, and I bought my first Oscar fish. I wanted to buy one fish, something. Oh, there's Max, my bird. He's got to be in the videos, so you can. I'm not a pirate, even though I have a parrot and there's a ship behind me. Okay, be nice. Anyway, so the Oscar fish, originally when I bought it, I knew it grew fairly decent size, and I did water changes, I had a filter, not much decoration. So that's how it started with the one fish. Actually, within a day or two, I bought a second fish, but I learned that the Oscar fish is very territorial. Maybe the 30-gallon tank wasn't big enough. One killed the other, and I had issues with him at the beginning where he wanted to kill other fish. So I ended up putting in more decorations into the tank, and I started playing with decorations. I absolutely love to play with decorations. I found that at the beginning, water is good. The Oscar fish is very sturdy. I recommend it if you're just starting out. You don't know, oh, my fish is going to die. If you start off with one Oscar fish, they're very sturdy. They're for water changes and water quality. They should last, even if you're a beginner and you're not sure what you're doing. So that's kind of how I started. So from there, I was gifted my dad's old 90-gallon tank. This tank behind me, which I finally got it to the point where I think I'm very happy with it. I like the underwater ship decoration and where it's going, and I think I'm going to keep it as close to this as possible, even though I may have said that in my other videos, but I think I'm truly finally happy with the 90-gallon tank. So I did get the 90-gallon tank. Obviously, I put my Oscar fish in there, and from then on, I wanted to add a couple more cichlids. So I went to the store and I kind of blindly bought fish that I really loved, and thank God they were not fish that grew really big. They were fish that they were mostly African cichlids and South African cichlids. So I mixed them, which a lot of people say don't do, but even though I did, everything worked out. Most of them don't grow more than 8 or 9 inches long. So from that point on, I pretty much exhausted the tank. The tank was overstocked and full, and I was getting bored with it, to be honest with you. So I moved the decorations around as much as I could, but you know, I after watching the same decorations for quite a while, you kind of get bored of your tank. So it's good to move things around, clean under your decorations, add some new ones, remove some old ones, put them in storage, and do that once in a while. That way you don't get bored of your tank. Your tank just doesn't sit in the corner, and it doesn't just collect algae, right? So regular cleaning is key. You'll get to know that. Don't put your tank in the sunlight either. You'll get even more algae, and you'll get even more distress when it really doesn't go your way. So that's another thing. One more tank after that was the 55-gallon tank, and I got bored of that 90-gallon tank. It was the same fish, cichlid fish, and I love my fish, but you always want more. That's the hobby. That's fish keeping. If you're into fish, you'll always want more. You always want the next beautiful fish, the next thing, the next tank. It never stops, which is good, right? Because it keeps you occupied. You spend your free time on creating a nice, happy home for your fish. You learn how to take care of them, and a great, little helper goes a long way too. Anyway, so I then proceeded to. I wanted something completely different. I got tired of decorations. I wanted something real. I wanted something natural. So I went ahead and I got the 55-gallon tank on my own. Put it right next to. I actually got the idea from a YouTube video where you can put a tank next to another tank, and basically that's what I did. I think it's really cool. I have a nice cozy corner here, and I wanted to do that. So I did. And I wanted to try plants. Plants take a while. They're not for beginners. Even though you may get lucky if that's really good. But they take time to grow, and I wanted to do a planted tank. So you can see I've got plants in my tank in the 55-gallon. There were a lot more plants. You can view the video. I just did a cleanup in the tank, and what I did originally is I had a whole lot of Tetra Fish and live breeder fish in this tank until yesterday. But this weekend, I went ahead and I really like the cichlids. You can view my Tetra Fish. They're still around. They will have their own another tank, but it'll be a completely different setup. I don't think I want to do too much more with the planted tank. I want to keep it as is. It's growing out. Even though these cichlids, this is the main reason is I now got the big cichlid here, which is a flower horn, and I have an arowana. I do have a pacu, which is a gigantic fish. It'll grow to 95 pounds and over 3 feet in length, but that fish, I don't know if I will keep it. I'm kind of debating whether or not to take it to the store. I like them if they're just by themselves in the tank. I don't think I can do that right now. So I'm keeping this 55-gallon as a grow-out tank for now. We'll see how it goes. So anyway, so that was the 55-gallon tank, and that's what happened to it. It evolved into just 3 fish right now in there, other than a pleco or 2. They're big fish. One's an aggressive fish, which is the flower horn. I don't know if you guys can see that. The other one is the pacu, and the third one is an arowana baby that's just swimming at the top here. So what did I do with my other big cichlids? So what I did is I got a 120-gallon tank for those. That means I have a couple of Oscar fish in there, and I have a knife fish. Now, originally, I think the fish I bought was a knife fish that made me get an even bigger tank, because I did not originally realize how big he would get. Now the knife fish is absolutely beautiful to look at, and it grows to like 2 feet or more. So I didn't realize that when I first, like I said, blindly bought them. Most of them were just little cichlids. I didn't have too many troubles, but the knife fish really got me. So if you make a mistake and you don't realize what you buy, and you're new, you go for the pretty fish. That's what happens, right? You end up with a pet, and I'm not the type of person that will throw a pet away. I'm not the type of person that can get rid of a pet. So I really hope that never happens to me, where I have to remove a pet and get rid of them. So I ended up upgrading to the 120 gallon. I put all my knife fish, my Oscar fish in there. Got a couple decent sized catfish to clean the tank. Nothing that will grow big. And they're fairly happy. You can watch my previous videos on that. That tank is still not quite where I want it to be. The water is still a little foggy there. At the same time, I wanted to. When I first started, when I was a little kid, I have guppy fish, right? So it's a long time love of mine is guppy fish, right? And I know they breed like crazy, and they're very beautiful. So I wanted to have a guppy breeding farm, which is another YouTube video I saw, which I really loved. So I really got into the hobby over the last couple months, and I'm really getting the hang of it now. I would say I've got the water quality down. I've got the filter cleaning down. So the water changes. It takes a couple months to get everything where you want to be, right? You don't get frustrated at the beginning. I mean, Max. It just takes time, right? It's a learning curve, and you need to watch some YouTube videos and educate yourself, some websites, and read a lot about the fish in the store. Like I said, on the price tags, they usually should have how big they get, where they're from, and their native name in Latin, which you can Google and find out everything about it on Wikipedia or what the case may be. So, gathering more and more information, and don't ask me to pronounce any Latin names, I honestly can't do that. So, where was I? The guppy tanks. Yes, I absolutely love my guppy tanks now, as well as I did before when I first started with them. I have all kinds of beautiful guppies, and I will continue to grow them out. Now, guppies breed so quick and so rapid. Like, it's a great starter fish, but they cost way too much at the store. I think sometimes they're like $5, $7, $4. I mean, that's a huge amount of money to pay for a guppy, where a guppy breeds almost like every week, and they have like 20 to 40 babies, right? But they do take a couple months to grow out. So I guess every 3 months or so you get 40 guppies out of your breeding. So I have a lot of guppies, and you will see another update on my guppy tanks pretty soon. But overall, it's a lot of work. The water, you have to constantly change the water, make sure they're happy, make sure there's no disease. So one thing about guppy fish, Max, stay. One thing about guppy fish or other fish, tetra fish, anything you buy at a store, a lot of it comes from overseas. Actually, most of it comes from overseas, and what they do is they mass breed them, or they catch them in the wild. It really depends the store and so on. But They cure them. They put medicine in their tanks. They bring them over from overseas. They put them in the store, and you buy these fish. You take them home. You put them in your tank, and no matter if you're an expert or not, some of these guys can easily die on you, and that's because the medication wears off that they used to medicate them with, as well. They've been through a lot, right? Through a big trip in a cargo ship or a plane, So that's basically what you need to know is once you're happy, once you've got your fish, and once you get them set in your tank. So basically what I mean is once you buy the fish lives, the fish is happy in your tank, you buy another fish, and you have a couple of them. That's a community tank at that point. So at that point, you have a community you've created. So you are responsible for this little world you create, and you have to keep them happy. And some of them are picky, some of them are for experts, some fish are for beginners. The ones for beginners are usually the ones that they can breed quite fast, right? The ones for experts are usually the ones that are more finicky fish. They require better water conditions. They require constant water changes, filtrations, and no beginner really is that focused at the beginning, right? People sometimes get into it and they spend maybe a little bit of time on the fish, not as much as they should. So that's why I'm recording everything, even though sometimes it may be annoying to some of you guys to see all these videos being posted over and over. But the goal is to basically catalog my journey. I want to eventually be an expert at the fish, know all the Latin names, and share that with you, tell you about the fish. I don't know if you guys want to watch a lot of videos about who loves what fish, recommendations of what fish people should give you, you should get, or so on. I mean, to each his own, I believe that. I also believe that you should do your homework and have a bit of a goal or an idea in mind when you get your tank, what you want it to look like. And it's going to take some time. It's not going to be instant because you have to get to know how to clean it. You have to get your decorations. Decorations are not cheap either. I did give you guys a good tip about decorations, like you see in my tank here. Right there, some greenery plants. Sometimes you can go into a thrift store and find the plastic plants, like office plastic plants, and just use parts and pieces and add them onto your aquarium. Just rinse them through really hot water before you do that, right? So sometimes that can save you a lot of money, because I see some plastic plants are like $20, $30. I mean, prices are just skyrocketing, and they will never get cheaper. So look for sales. Sales are good. Get the fish you love, and just be mindful of how to stock your tank. Now, I like my tank fairly full. I mentioned that in my videos. I don't like just 3-4 fish. I like a community, a variety, something that you can watch, and like in the background you can see I have all kinds of fish that are just swimming around, and they have decorations for a reason. They like to hide in them, and they love their little homes. They pick a piece of a tank and they hide in it, right? and I mentioned in my other video, sometimes it's beneficial to move the decorations around a little bit, even though I will try and stick to my my current setup in my 90-gallon, which I'm finally happy with. As for my 55-gallon, again, I want to show you, I only have 3 fish in here, and that's because they grow really large, and this guy is very aggressive here. So I want to keep the plants. The plants are not good with these cichlids. They eat plants. They rip them up, especially the flower horn. He'll move decorations around, rip things, move things. So once you're ready for that kind of a fish, they're really beautiful. They're like a little pet, but it is not something a beginner should be getting, right? You need to build up your experience. It takes at least a couple months, like it did in my case, almost a year here. Before that, I've had several years as well with my dad, who's quite an expert at fish keeping, and he actually keeps discus fish, which you guys may see in some of my other videos, and those are like the hardest fish to keep. They're the most finicky fish. They require tons of water changes, and water quality is key for those guys. So I like the big fish. Unlike my dad, he likes the colorful, pretty fish. I love the big fish, and I'm starting to prep for a big tank. So I'm gaining experience playing around in the 90-gallon tank and in the 55-gallon tank, as well as my 120-gallon tank. All that is to get the fish you love, grow them out, get good at the water changes, get to know them, get to know their habits, and then eventually what you want to do is create the tank of your dreams, right? Which for me, at some point, will probably be a big tank. I don't know yet, but I'm hoping that if you guys keep watching and I keep filming and I keep learning, you guys will see me with a monster tank with big fish. I really love the Amazon feel, even though I love all kinds of mixed cichlids. At some point, I would love to breed some cichlids as well. I think I would love to breed my Venustus cichlids, even though they're cheap in the store. They're fairly easy to breed. That's the guy, the big fish behind me, right there. That's a Venustus, and they're absolutely pretty. I would love to breed them out and create a 120-gallon tank just with those fish, and give them a home just like as close to nature as possible. I strongly recommend you playing around and building up your knowledge. And if you have a YouTube channel, even better if you share it with people and they get to know your fish. I don't do a lot of discussions in my videos. I try not to give you guys too much advice. I want to more do a catalog of what I've gone through. And my newest little hobby is I have a little shrimp tank. I'm trying to, little things are just as cool as the big things. So I do have a little shrimp tank, and I'm trying to see if I can breed the shrimp out for food for my cichlids. I would love to breed my crickets out, breed the shrimp out, and some feeder fish as well. I don't like feeding live fish, but crickets I'll go with that. Those are not bad, as well as some little shrimp. So that's basically what I'm after. Is I want to introduce you guys to the hobby. I want to show you guys that anybody can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. And a good starter tank, I would not go with a 10-gallon tank. They're very nice. They're cheap. They're like $50 with everything. But I would definitely start with a 20-gallon tank. or a 30-gallon tank. That would be my only recommendation. But I don't want to give you guys advice. The bigger the tank you start with, the better. 55 gallons or 75 gallons or 100 gallons, 90 gallons. I mean, sky's the limit. But the bigger the tank, the better, because you don't have to worry about the water quality as much. It doesn't fluctuate so badly. In a 10-gallon tank or a 20-gallon tank, a little slight change in water can cause a huge drastic effect on your fish. So that's something to keep in mind. But for all the fans that are watching me, thank you very much. I have a little community of fans here that I watch, and if you guys are watching, thank you all for your likes and your subscriptions, and I hope you guys are not tired of me yet. I really want to showcase the decorations, the fish, and catalog everything. So that's basically the goal. And keep watching, subscribe if you like my other videos. I do all kinds of funky videos. I do. You will never get bored with my videos. I try to show you guys a little bit of everything. Some just single fish shots, community fish shots, tank setups, and then I'll tear it down and rebuild it and start all over with something else. But I am always very mindful about the fish. You guys have to don't stress your fish out too much. Be very careful. I've learned how to deal with it in a nice way. So my fish are never stressed out. They're always happy. And I'll show you guys another Tetra Fish tank in a bit, where all my Tetra Fish went from the 55-gallon tank. But I will not put them in the planted tank again, even though they had a beautiful home. If I do a planted tank, I want to do a real proper planted tank. I think I've gotten enough experience with my current 55-gallon tank that I can actually do a real professional planted tank. This right now is just a few plants here and there, and not an actual planted tank the way I want. An expert would really start with the right soil and the right gravel and the right filtration, CO2. I want to do that one day, and I want to do some microfish, which are really tiny fish. You can actually do a microfish tank, and it's really beautiful. Maybe that is something, if you're one of those people that you know how to keep the water crystal clean, you know how to tweak things, and a micro fish tank is a nano fish tank is actually a really beautiful thing, and just as beautiful as the giant fish that I am trying to create a big tank for. So eventually one day I want to combine, this is the ultimate goal. I want to combine all fish eventually. I don't know if I can do it, but I want to combine the little tiny fish with the big fish in a giant tank. I want to create a natural habitat, a self-sustaining giant tank where I don't have to feed even the biggest fish. I want them to breed. I want everything from shrimp in there to little fish to medium-sized cichlids to giant fish. I think it is possible to do it. It is just a matter like me experimenting here with all these different tanks. matter of getting the right species, a matter of getting the right amount of shrimp, the right amount of just the right fish, really, for the task. And the beautiful thing about fish keeping is, if your fish outgrew the tank, and I know that sometimes they do that really fast, you don't have to keep going. There's always someone that will take it in and give it a good home. There's a lot of fish experts out there. There is also pet stores that will take the fish back as well. So don't ever feel like you're stuck with anything, because in the real world, even experts trade and sell fish between each other. So that's the hobby, right? As far as like spending money on the tanks, yeah, be prepared to spend up to $500 on a fish tank, a decent fish tank that I would say would be worth spending money on. That's with a stand, with lighting and everything. And then be prepared to spend quite a bit of money on decorations as well. They cost money. So as well, the fish, depending on what fish you want. I know when you first are new, you get very excited and you put fish in and you go to the pet store and you want all the fish in the same day. But what I would recommend is buy one fish, keep going with it for at least a month, then add on another fish and another fish. But make sure there's decorations. These fish need to hide from each other sometimes. Sometimes, just like people, they fight. They get aggressive towards each other. And there's different kinds of fish in the tank. So there is the bottom feeders, cleaning fish. There is the live breeders. There is the egg breeders. And there's the big monster fish. But all of it works. I wouldn't recommend getting the big fish. Anything that grows over a 9-inch size is a big fish for any tank. So be mindful of how big they get. Read the labels properly. Now, the other thing is, let's see, what else? So be prepared to, like I said, when you don't rush out and get a tank, but go to the pet store, look at the prices, right? Look at the prices of decorations. See what you would like to decorate your tank with. If you're going for something natural, you want to try driftwood, like I have in this tank here in the corner, big piece of driftwood. If you're going for something that looks natural but isn't, I have driftwood in this tank, but it's actually plastic. Decorations like the ship in the middle there, I absolutely love it, but everything costs money for decorations, and when you have an empty tank, it's never just one decoration you just put in, because your fish will not be happy. They need places to hide and feel safe. Alright, so that's basically just an introduction of where I'm going, what I think of like tanks and the hobby, and a little bit of Max here playing around with us. So I have a ton of questions about everything. I try to educate myself, like I said. Videos, YouTube is a good source, because there's a ton of good people that are just starting out that have a lot to offer. ton of people that have been there for a long time, that have millions of, thousands and hundreds of thousands of subscribers. I think they've heard it all. So those are good things to look into as well. There's a lot of YouTube videos where people make mistakes, lots of mistakes, and now I'm not the one that will tell you I did not make any mistakes. That's why I record everything. I want you guys to see every mistake I make. Like with my Pacu fish recently, I put him in different tanks and he got really beat up. That is a mistake. There's all kinds of things. But one thing is keep your water clean. Do at least a 25% water change once a week, or up to 50%. Anything more than that, people do all kinds of water changes, but stress, fish get stressed out with water changes. So keep that in mind, right? But you need to do them. Absolutely key to the fish survival is water changes and water quality. The pH levels are also important, so keep an eye on your pH levels. I would say read up on the fish you have and what pH levels they like. The chlorine in your tank, keep an eye on that. Those are the two key things. I've mentioned this before, and to add to that, the water, you need to change it because the fish do pee in the water, and you need to get rid of that, right? And all the food and debris, it kind of disintegrates and it all sits at the bottom. So you have to clean your gravel. Maybe at the very beginning when you first get your fish. I did that with my Oscar. I had no gravel whatsoever. Gravel is hard to clean. You have to do it quite often. But you don't want to do too much because you stress the fish out. So a lot of people take the fish out of the tank into a bucket and they give them some air while they clean the tank and do the water changes, which is a good strategy as well. I try to do gentle work in my tanks, but more often. So you will see me clean the gravel, move some decorations around, change the water, but I don't do too much, too drastic changes, because I keep my fish in the tank when I do a lot of this, depending, right, which tank it is. So that's a little bit about the water, right? I just want to make sure everybody is aware of how important clean water is. I've gone to the point where my fish were happy, everything was nice, but I wanted to go a little bit above and beyond. So now what I do is, before I put water in my tanks, I put them through a Brita jug. I want the water to be as soft and as needed, right? And avoid to use as many chemicals as you can, right? There's a chemical for everything in the fish hobby. I mean, you can spend another set of hundreds of dollars for chemicals, right? And at the very beginning, when you first start with your fish tanks and so on, don't be scared that your fish gets diseases, they get ick, they get this. I would say that at the beginning, before you actually know how to keep the water clean, how to clean your filter properly, and maintain the tank, fish will be getting sick. Especially because you're buying new fish all the time, and stores sometimes don't keep their tanks very clean. If you go to the store, the key thing before you buy a fish, look in the tank. If there's white spots on the fish, if the fish doesn't look healthy, if it looks like there is something wrong, don't buy from that tank, even though the fish beside it is absolutely healthy. Simply because there is a disease in that water. You put that water in your tank, because beginners, what you will probably do is you'll get a fish in a bag with the water, you'll dump it in your tank. That means you dumped all the diseased water in your tank. So you want to, if you do buy, even from a healthy looking tank, there's usually some kind of microorganism in there that's not a good one. That could be a disease hiding, and so on. So make sure you take the fish out of the bag with your hand and put it in your tank. That's one good way of doing it.